The doors to the Grand Assembly Hall opened with a sound like thunder rolling across mountains. David Morgan stepped through, and his breath caught in his throat, despite all his diplomatic training. The chamber was impossible. It stretched upward for what looked like miles, a massive sphere carved from living crystal that pulsed with light from 1,000 different suns. Floating platforms held representatives from species he had only seen in briefing files. Some were made of pure energy. Others looked like walking oceans contained in invisible barriers. One species appeared to be living mathematics, equations and formulas that shifted and changed in three-dimensional space. David walked forward on a bridge that had no visible supports. It simply existed, suspended in the air, leading to a platform at the chamber's center. Behind him walked Lisa Park, Earth's chief science advisor, and Commander Jack Rivers, who represented humanity's small defense fleet. They were alone. 3 humans in a room built for thousands. Around them, on every side, alien representatives watched. David could feel their eyes, their sensors, their consciousness examining him, judging him, finding him wanting. He had been an ambassador for 12 years. He had negotiated treaties, ended conflicts, and represented Earth in dozens of difficult situations. But nothing had prepared him for this moment. The platform beneath his feet stopped moving when it reached the center. A spotlight appeared from nowhere, pinning them in place. The rest of the chamber dimmed. Human delegation from the world called Earth. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. It bypassed his ears entirely, speaking directly into his mind. You stand before the Galactic Council. 97 sectors, 412 civilizations, 6,000 inhabited worlds. We are the law. We are the order. We are civilization itself. David forced himself to stand straight, to meet the gaze of beings who had ruled the galaxy for longer than humans had existed. We come in peace, he said. His voice sounded small in the vast space. Earth seeks only to understand our place in the galactic community. Sound rippled through the chamber. It might have been laughter. It might have been contempt. Your place. The voice belonged to something called the High Chancellor, leader of the council. David could not see the speaker, but he felt the weight of ancient authority behind the words. You were children playing with fire. Your species discovered faster than light travel 30 years ago. We have traveled the stars for 10,000 years. You know nothing of your place. Lisa touched David's arm gently. A warning. Stay calm. Do not react. But David's jaw tightened. They had come here as equals, or so they thought. Then teach us, David said carefully. We came here to learn, to join the galactic community as partners. Partners. Another voice spoke, this one harsh and grating like metal scraping stone. You think yourself our equal? The council has watched your species, human. We have observed your violence, your wars, your inability to unite even your own world. You are dangerous, unpredictable, primitive. The accusations came faster now. From voices all around the chamber, you have developed weapons that violate 17 unconcordant laws. Refuse to submit your technology for inspection. You expand your territory without authorization. You question our authority.
Yes. David?
Felt the pressure building. This was not a diplomatic meeting. This was a trial. And they had already been found guilty. Invited us here, Jack said suddenly. The commander's voice was steady, but David heard the edge in it. You sent first contact teams to Earth. You told us about the council. You said we could join. Was that a lie? Silence fell across the chamber. It was heavy and dangerous. We invited you to observe, the High Chancellor said slowly, to understand your insignificance, to learn humility. Instead, you demand rights. You claim sovereignty. You refuse to acknowledge that there are powers in this galaxy far greater than your small blue world. David's hands clenched at his sides. He thought of Earth, of 8 billion people who had welcomed the news of galactic civilization with hope and wonder, who had believed they were joining something beautiful. We acknowledge your power, David said. But power does not give you the right to dictate how we live. Earth is sovereign. We will not surrender that sovereignty, no matter how many worlds you control. The chamber erupted. Voices shouted in languages that made his ears hurt. Lights flashed in angry patterns. The floating platforms shook with the force of alien outrage. The High Chancellor's voice crashed down like a physical force. Everything went silent. You dare speak of sovereignty? You who have existed for mere moments in galactic time? You who cannot even leave your own star system without our technology? The voice grew colder. We permitted your presence here as a courtesy, but perhaps we made a mistake. Perhaps humanity is too primitive for civilization, too dangerous to exist among peaceful species. David felt his heart racing. This was going wrong. Terribly wrong. What are you saying? Lisa asked quietly. The Council is voting on sanctions, the High Chancellor announced. Trade restrictions, travel limitations, technology embargoes. And if you continue to resist our authority, we will consider containment. Containment? Jack's hand moved toward his sidearm before he caught himself. You mean quarantine? You would trap humanity on Earth, if necessary. For the safety of the galaxy, for the preservation of order. The High Chancellor paused. You have 3 days to consider your response. Either accept Council authority and submit to our regulations, or face the consequences. The choice is yours. The platform beneath their feet began moving, carrying them back toward the doors. The meeting was over. They had been dismissed, like children sent away from adult conversations, as they walked back across the impossible bridge. David heard whispers in languages he could not understand, but he knew what they meant. The galaxy had looked at humanity and found them unworthy. They reached the antechamber, and the great doors closed behind them with finality. For a long moment, none of them spoke. That was not diplomacy, Jack said finally. That was intimidation. They had no intention of treating us as equals. They fear us, Lisa said quietly. Both men looked at her. She was staring at nothing, her mind working. Did you notice? They did not just dismiss us. They were afraid. Why would ancient civilizations that rule 6,000 worlds fear one species from one small planet? David thought back to the meeting. The anger, the threats, the speed with which they moved to sanctions. 'Cause we said no, he realized. We refused to submit. How many other species have done that? None that survived, Jack said grimly. At least, none that they told us about. David looked at his two companions. His team, his friends. They had come to this station hoping to make humanity part of something greater. Instead, they discovered that the galaxy's ruling powers were just as flawed as any government on Earth. They demanded obedience. They feared independence. They used power to maintain control. We need to warn Earth, David said. The Council is going to vote for sanctions. Maybe worse. We need to prepare. For what? Lisa asked. War. We cannot fight the entire galaxy. No, David agreed. But we can make them understand that humanity does not surrender. Not to bullies. Not to threats. Not even to ancient powers that claim to speak for civilization itself. Jack smiled without humor. You want to play this game? Against 6,000 worlds? I want to show them who we are, David said. They think we are primitive? Dangerous? Unpredictable? Good. Let them think that. But they need to learn that those traits make us strong, not weak. He looked back at the closed doors of the council chamber. We have 3 days before they vote. 3 days to find a way to make the galaxy understand that Earth will not bow. 3 days to turn this disaster into an opportunity. And if we fail? Lisa asked. David's expression hardened. Then at least we fail on our feet, not on our knees. Behind those massive doors and chambers they could not see, the Galactic Council began to vote on humanity's fate. They expected compliance. They expected fear. They expected another primitive species too. Recognize superior power and submit. They did not understand humans at all. And that mistake would change everything. The human quarters. On the council station were luxurious and completely monitored. David knew they were being watched from the moment the doors sealed behind them. Every word, every action. The council wanted to see how Earth's representatives would react to their ultimatum. David waited 5 minutes. Then he smiled at the nearest sensor and made a small gesture. On Earth, it was called giving someone the middle finger. He doubted the council knew what it meant. But the intent was clear enough. Jack laughed, despite the tension. Subtle. We are past subtle, David said. He moved to the chamber's communication terminal and was not surprised to find it locked. No outgoing signals. No way to contact Earth. They were isolated. They cut us off. Earth has no idea what happened in that chamber. Lisa was already examining the walls with a small scanner she had hidden in her clothes. The jamming field is sophisticated. Multiple layers. I cannot break through it without equipment we do not have. Then we improvise. David sat down at a table and pulled up holographic displays. The council gave us 3 days. They expect us to spend that time panicking, arguing, maybe fighting among ourselves. Instead, we are going to use every second to learn everything we can about this place. Clear. And what? Jack asked. We already know we are outmatched. They have thousands of worlds. We have one. Numbers are not everything, David said. History is full of examples where the smaller force won through strategy, courage, or exploiting the enemy's weaknesses. The enemy. Lisa raised an eyebrow. We are calling the Galactic Council our enemy now. They threaten to quarantine our entire species, David replied. What would you call them? Before anyone could answer, the room's temperature dropped. Not physically. Something else. A presence that made David's skin crawl and his breath catch. The holographic display flickered. Then a face appeared. Not the High Chancellor. Something else. Something that made David's instincts scream danger. The being was tall and thin, covered in what looked like midnight blue armor. But it was not armor. It was skin. And where I should be, there were only pools of absolute darkness that somehow still saw everything. Ambassador Morgan. The voice was soft, almost gentle. That made it more terrifying. I am Overseer Kenth. I serve the Council in matters of security and compliance. David forced himself to remain calm. We have not broken any laws. Overseer. Not yet, Kenth agreed. But you will. Humans always do. Your species is predictable in its unpredictability. You push boundaries. You test limits. You refuse to accept the natural order. The natural order, Lisa repeated. You mean your order? Kent's attention shifted to her. The Council has maintained peace in this galaxy for 10,000 years. Dr. Park, before we established order, there was chaos. Wars that consumed entire sectors. Species driven to extinction. Technology run wild. We brought stability, purpose, law, and control, Jack added. You brought control, Kent said simply. Because without control, there is only destruction. Younger species do not understand this. They see our rules as oppression. But we see the larger picture. We know what happens when primitive civilizations are given too much freedom too quickly. David stood. You are here to threaten us. I'm here to offer clarity, Kent corrected. In 2 days, the Council will vote. The outcome is certain. Sanctions will be imposed. Your species will be contained. But there is another option, which is surrender your sovereignty now. Accept Council governance. Allow us to guide humanity's development. In exchange, Earth will be protected. Your people will have access to galactic technology, trade, knowledge. You will prosper under our guidance. As long as we obey, David said. All civilized species obey the Council, Kent replied. It is the price of civilization. Lisa stepped forward. What happened to species that refused? The ones who said no to your control? Kent's dark eyes focused on her. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he spoke 2 words that made David's blood run cold.
Yes.
They adjusted. The hologram vanished. Jack moved to the terminal, but David stopped him. Do not say anything. They are listening. Always listening. Instead, David pulled out a piece of paper from his bag. Old technology. Simple. He wrote quickly and showed it to the others. The words were simple. They are hiding something. The council fears us. Why? Lisa took the paper and wrote her own response. Species that refused were not destroyed. They adjusted. What does that mean? Jack added. Maybe some refused and survived. Maybe some are still refusing. David nodded slowly. That was the question, was it not? The council ruled 6,000 worlds. They claimed absolute authority. But what if some species had found ways to resist? What if humanity was not the first to say no? He wrote one more line. We need to find allies. Someone who understands what we are facing, but how? They were trapped in monitored quarters, cut off from Earth, surrounded by civilizations that had accepted council rule for centuries. Where would they find anyone willing to help? The answer came from an unexpected source. That night, as David tried to sleep despite everything spinning in his mind, he heard a sound. Soft, almost nothing, a whisper in the darkness. He opened his eyes and saw a figure standing in the corner of his room, small, barely visible in the dim light. David's hand moved toward the emergency alert, but the figure spoke first. Do not call for help, Ambassador. I am not here to harm you. I am here to offer information. Who are you? The figure stepped forward into the light. David saw a being roughly humanoid in shape, but covered in scales that shifted colors like oil on water. Large eyes, delicate hands. A species he did not recognize. My name is Terrell. I represent a group within the council who believe the old ways are failing, who believe that humanity deserves the truth. What truth? David sat up slowly, not wanting to make any sudden moves. The truth about the silence, Terrell said. The truth about why the council really fears humanity. The truth about what is coming. I do not understand. Terrell moved closer. The council has maintained order for 10,000 years, but they have done so by hiding the greatest threat the galaxy has ever faced. A force so terrible that even speaking its name is forbidden. We call it the silence, and it is breaking free. David's heart began racing. What is it? The end of hope, Terrell said quietly. The death of will. The silence is not a weapon or a species. It is entropy itself made conscious. It spreads through space, consuming civilizations not through violence, but through despair. Entire worlds simply give up. Stop fighting. Stop living. They sit and wait for death, because the silence shows them the truth of existence. What truth? That nothing matters. That everything ends. That, in an infinite universe, all struggle is futile. Terrell's scales shifted to darker colors. The council has been fighting the silence for 1,000 years. Containing it. Hiding it. But containment is failing. In days, maybe hours, it will break free. And when it does, most civilizations will fall. David stood. Why are you telling me this? Because humanity is different, Terrell said. You are young, stubborn, irrational. You believe in hope even when logic says there is none. You fight even when you cannot win. Those traits make the council fear you. But those same traits might be what saves the galaxy. You think we can fight this silence? I think you are the only species that might resist it. The older a civilization becomes, the more rational it becomes. The more it sees reality clearly, and reality is despair when faced with the silence. But humanity does not see reality clearly. You see what you want to see. You believe what you choose to believe. That makes you dangerous to the council. Terrell paused. And potentially immune to the silence. David's mind raced. The council is going to sanction us. Quarantine Earth. And then this silence is going to break free, and they will need our help. Yes. The irony is exquisite, is it not? Terrell's scales rippled with colors David could not name. They will condemn you. Then they will beg you. And humanity will have to decide whether to save the galaxy that rejected you or let it burn. That is not a choice, David said. We would not let billions die just for revenge. I know, Terrell said. That is why I am here, to warn you, to give you time to prepare. Because when the silence comes, it will test everything humanity believes about hope, courage, and the meaning of existence. The figure began to fade, not moving, just becoming less real. Wait, David said. How do we stop it? I do not know if you can, Tyrell replied. But if anyone has a chance, it is the species too foolish to accept defeat. Good luck, Ambassador. You are going to need it. And then the figure was gone. David stood alone in his room, wondering if he had just experienced a warning or a hallucination. But deep in his gut, he knew it was real. The Council feared humanity not because of what Earth had done, but because of what Earth might do when faced with the impossible. They feared that humanity would fight, and worse, they feared that humanity might win. Morning came to the station with artificial light that mimicked a sun Earth had never seen. David gathered Jack and Lisa in his quarters and told them everything Tyrell had said. He expected skepticism. Instead, he found understanding. It makes sense, Lisa said, pacing as she thought. The Council's behavior, the threats, the fear in their voices. They are not reacting to what we have done. They are reacting to what they think we might do when something worse comes. A mysterious figure appears in the night with a story about galactic doom, Jack said carefully. That is either truth or manipulation. We need to figure out which. How? David asked. We push back, Jack replied. We call their bluff. In diplomatic terms, we make them show their hand. David understood. The vote is tomorrow. They expect us to submit or rage uselessly. Instead, we do neither. We accept their sanctions calmly and ask them why they are really afraid. That is dangerous, Lisa warned. If we are wrong about the silence, we look foolish. If we are right and speak about it openly, we might force them to take more extreme action against us. We are already facing quarantine, David countered. How much more extreme can it get? The answer came sooner than expected. That afternoon, the station shook. Not from engines or movement, from something else. An impact. A breach. Alarms began screaming in frequencies that hurt. Human ears. David ran to the windows and saw ships fleeing the station in every direction. Panic. Absolute panic. What is happening? Lisa pulled up emergency broadcasts. The translation matrix struggled to keep up with the flood of alien languages, but certain words came through clearly. Containment failure. Sector 7. The silence. It has broken through. David's blood froze. Tyrell had said days. But it was happening now. The doors to their quarters unlocked automatically. Emergency protocols? In a crisis, even prisoners were allowed to evacuate. They ran into corridors filled with aliens of every description, all fleeing toward the docking bays. But David saw something else. Some aliens were not running. They had stopped. Sitting in the corridors, standing still, their eyes empty. Their bodies present, but their minds gone. Do not look at them, Jack said, pulling David forward. We need to move. They reached a viewing gallery overlooking the main council chamber. The massive space was chaos. Delegates screamed. Some fled. Others fought each other for no reason except terror, and at the center of it all, David felt it. A weight. A pressure. Not physical. Something deeper. It pressed on his mind like hands trying to suffocate him. Why are you running? Why do you struggle? It does not matter. Nothing matters. The universe is vast and cold, and you are nothing. Less than nothing. Accept the truth. Rest. Fade. Give up. David gasped. His knees buckled. It was not words. It was feeling, knowledge. Absolute certainty that existence was pointless. That every effort was wasted. That death was not just inevitable, but preferable to the futility of continuing. He saw Jack fall to his knees. Saw Lisa's face go blank with despair. And something in David's mind snapped awake. No. The thought was small, quiet, but it was his. He did not care if the universe was meaningless. He did not care if nothing lasted forever. He was here now. He was alive now. And he decided that was enough. "Get up," he said to his companions. His voice was rough, but determined. "Jack, Lisa, get up." "Why?" Lisa's voice was hollow. "It does not matter. We are going to die." "Everything dies," as David agreed. "But not today, not here, not like this." He grabbed them both and pulled them to their feet through sheer force of will. "We are human. We are the species that looked at the stars and said, 'We are going there.' We are the species that cured diseases and built cities and made art, not because it would last forever, but because we were alive and we chose to matter." Jack's eyes focused. "The silence. It is showing us truth," David said. "But truth is not everything. Come on. The council needs to see this." They ran toward the main chamber, past aliens who had given up, past beings who had ruled the galaxy for millennia and could not face the weight of cosmic meaninglessness. The doors were open. Inside, the High Chancellor stood on his platform, his crystalline body cracking. Around him, the council was dying. Not physically, but the will to exist was draining from them like water through broken glass. "Ambassador Morgan." The High Chancellor's voice was fading. "You should not have come. The silence cannot be fought. We were arrogant to think containment was possible. Now it will consume everything," though David said, walking onto the main floor. "It will not. You do not understand what you face. This is not an enemy you can negotiate with or fight. This is reality itself. The truth of entropy. The certainty of ending." "I understand perfectly," David replied. "The silence is right. The universe will end. Everything we do will be forgotten. But so what?" The High Chancellor's light flickered. "What? So what if nothing lasts forever? So what if we are insignificant? Humanity figured that out thousands of years ago. We know we are tiny. We know we are temporary. We do not care. We choose to matter anyway." Around the chamber, some of the fallen delegates stirred. "Not many, but some." "You cannot will away truth," the High Chancellor said. "No," David agreed. "But we can decide what that truth means. The silence tells you existence is pointless. Fine, accept that. Then make your own point. Create your own meaning. That is what consciousness does. That is what life is." Lisa stepped forward, her scientific mind recovering. "The silence is entropy made conscious. But life is order made conscious. We are the opposite force. And we choose to exist not because we will win eventually, but because we are here now." Jack added his voice. "Every human knows they are going to die. Every single one. But we live anyway. We love anyway. We fight anyway. Because the alternative is giving up. And humans do not give up." The words were simple, irrational. They made no logical sense, but they worked. Not completely, not perfectly, but enough. The crushing weight of the silence remained, but it did not feel quite so heavy. The certainty of meaninglessness remained, but it did not feel quite so devastating because three humans had stood in the presence of cosmic despair, said no. The High Chancellor's light stabilized. Just slightly. "How is this possible? You should be overcome. Younger species are more vulnerable, not less." "Maybe that is the problem," David said. "You have 10,000 years of wisdom. 10,000 years of seeing reality clearly. You understand the universe too well. But humanity is too young to be wise. We are still foolish enough to hope." A new presence entered the chamber. Overseer Kent materialized, and for the first time, David saw something like respect in those dark eyes. "The sanctions are meaningless now," Kent said. "The silence has breached containment. Within hours, it will reach populated sectors. Trillions will die, not through violence, but through surrender." The Overseer looked directly at David. "The Council needs humanity, Ambassador. We need your foolish hope, your irrational defiance, Your refusal to accept the obvious. You want our help? David's voice was hard. After threatening us? After voting to quarantine our world? Yes, Kent said simply. Because we have no other choice. The older civilizations cannot resist. We see truth too clearly. But humanity sees what you want to see. You believe what you choose to believe. That makes you our only hope. David looked at his companions, at the council members struggling to maintain consciousness, at the galaxy that had rejected Earth hours ago and now needed Earth desperately. We will help, he said finally. Not because you deserve it, not because you treated us fairly, but because billions of innocent people are about to face something terrible, and humans do not abandon people in need. He stepped closer to the High Chancellor's platform. But after this is over, things change. No more sanctions. No more threats. Earth joins the Council as equals, or we walk away. We save your civilization on our terms. The High Chancellor's light pulsed with what might have been anger or relief. Agreed. Save us, humans. Show us how you fight the unfightable. David turned to Lisa. The silence is psychic. Can we block it, block? No, but maybe we can dilute it. Create a countersignal. Hope as a broadcast. Need to get to Earth, Jack said. If the silence is spreading, our world is in its path. We need to warn them. Prepare them. There's no time, Kent said. The silence will reach your sector and ours. Even with emergency jumps, you cannot arrive in time. Then we will be late, David said. But we will be there. Because that is what humans do. We show up. We fight. We persist. Even when it is too late. Especially when it is too late. He looked back at the council. At beings who ruled thousands of worlds now unable to rule themselves. Get us a ship. The fastest one you have. We are going home. And when we get there, Earth is going to teach the galaxy how to fight cosmic despair with human stubbornness. That is not a plan, Kent said. No, David agreed. But it is a start. And right now, a start is all we have. As they ran toward the docking bays, as the station continued to shake with the spreading silence, David allowed himself one small smile. The galaxy had looked at humanity and seen primitives. Now they would learn what primitives could do when, pushed to the edge, they would learn that hope was not logical, but it was powerful. And humanity had hope to spare. The ship was called the Meridian, and it was the fastest vessel in the Council fleet. It was also designed for species that breathed methane and existed in temperatures that would freeze human blood solid. The crew had to evacuate and leave the ship's systems in emergency automation just so David and his team could board. This is insane, Jack said as they strapped into command seats not built for human bodies. We are stealing a Council warship to race home ahead of cosmic doom. Not stealing, David corrected. Borrowing under extreme emergency protocols. Completely different. Lisa was already interfacing with the navigation system. The controls were alien, the language unfamiliar, but mathematics was universal. I can get us to Earth, but the jump calculations are complex. If I make one mistake, we could arrive inside a planet or scattered across 3 star systems. Then do not make a mistake, David said. It was not helpful, but it was honest. The Meridian launched from the station at speeds that pressed them into their seats, despite artificial gravity. Through the view screens, David saw the chaos of the Council headquarters. Ships fleeing in all directions. The station itself going dark as systems failed, and spreading through space like an invisible plague. The silence continued its advance. Jump in 30 seconds, Lisa announced. Everyone hold on to something, and maybe pray if you believe in that sort of thing. I believe in you, David said. That is enough. The jump felt like dying and being born simultaneously. Reality twisted. Time became optional. David's consciousness scattered across dimensions that should not exist. And then snapped back together with painful precision. They emerged in Earth's solar system for hours later. Or for minutes. Or for years. Jump travel made time strange. Status, David gasped, trying to remember how to breathe. We made it, Lisa said, sounding surprised. We are actually here. Earth is still there. The MON is still there. The defense fleet is still there. And the silence. Jack asked. Lisa's face went pale. Spreading from the outer system, it hit Mars 10 minutes ago. 3 million people on the colonies. They just stopped. All of them, not dead, just still. David pulled up communications. Hail the defense fleet. All frequencies. Tell them this is Ambassador Morgan with emergency protocols. The response came immediately. A woman's face appeared, military, hard, determined. This is Admiral Grace Harper commanding Earth Defense. Ambassador, we have been trying to reach you for 6 hours. What in the name of all that is holy is happening? Admiral, we are facing an existential threat. It is called the silence. It is not a physical attack. It is psychological. It will make your people want to give up, to stop fighting, to accept defeat. I do not accept defeat, Harper said flatly. This is Earth Defense. Giving up is not in our programming. David smiled despite everything. Good, because I need you to broadcast a message. All channels. Every person on Earth and in the fleet needs to hear this. You have 5 minutes, Ambassador. Then that thing reaches our perimeter, and we find out if our weapons work on it. They will not, David said. But words might. He took a breath. This was it. The moment where he either saved 8 billion people or watched his species surrender to cosmic despair. No pressure. The channel opened. Every communication device on Earth and in orbit received the transmission. David spoke to his entire species. People of Earth, this is David Morgan. I am your ambassador to the Galactic Council. Right now, you are about to experience something terrifying. A force called the Silence is approaching our world. It will tell you that life is meaningless, that everything you have done, everything you will do, it does not matter because the universe is vast and cold and we are nothing. He paused. Let that sink in. And you know what? It is right. The universe is vast and cold. We are cosmically insignificant. In 1 trillion years, humanity will be forgotten. Every word we speak, every work we create, every person we love will be dust. On Earth, 8 billion people listened in growing horror. But humans have known this for thousands of years. We understand our mortality. We comprehend our insignificance. And we do not care. Because we discovered something the universe does not understand. That meaning is not found. It is created. That significance is not given. It is chosen. We matter because we decide to matter. The silence was 3 million kilometers away now. David could feel it pressing against his thoughts, even through the ship's hull. In a few minutes, you will feel a weight, a certainty that nothing matters. And I need you to remember something. We are human. We are descended from people who survived ice ages with nothing but fire and hope, who crossed oceans in wooden boats, who went to the moon because we decided we wanted to. We do not give up because the universe tells us to. We make our own meaning, 2 million kilometers. The weight was growing stronger. So when the silence comes, when it tells you to surrender, when it shows you the truth of entropy and meaninglessness, I need you to do something for me. Something very human. 1 million kilometers. Tell it to go to hell. The silence hit Earth's atmosphere, and 8 billion humans felt the crushing weight of cosmic truth. The certainty that nothing mattered. The knowledge that all struggle was futile. The despair of existence in an indifferent universe. And 8 billion humans looked at that truth and made a choice. Not all of them. Some surrendered. Some could not handle the weight. But most did something remarkable. They chose to matter anyway. A teacher in London kept teaching even though all knowledge would be forgotten. A doctor in Mumbai kept healing even though all life would end. A mother in Buenos Aires held her child even though all love was temporary. An artist in Tokyo kept painting even though all beauty would fade. They knew it was pointless. They did it anyway, because that was what humans did. It is working, Lisa said in amazement. The resistance rate is 70%. That is unheard of. Most species fall to 90% or higher. Humans are stubborn, Jack said. We have been telling the universe no since we learned to walk upright. But the silence was not done. It pressed harder, showed more truth. The heat death of the universe. The eventual end of all stars. The absolute certainty that nothing would remain. On Earth, the resistance began to crack. 70% became 60. Then 50. We are losing them, Lisa said. The weight is too much. Even humans cannot hold forever. David thought frantically. They had bought time. Proven resistance was possible. But resistance was not victory. They needed something more. Can we broadcast back? He asked. If the silence is psychic, can we send a psychic response? In theory, Lisa said. But broadcast what? Hope. That is just words against cosmic certainty. Not hope, David said slowly. An idea was forming. Crazy, impossible, completely irrational. Not hope. Experience. The silence shows truth about endings. We show truth about living. I do not understand. The silence is entropy made conscious. But life is order made conscious. What if we show the silence what it is missing? What if we broadcast not hope, but existence itself? The experience of being alive. Jack looked at him. You want to teach entropy about life? Why not? Everything in the universe experiences reality. Even fundamental forces. If the silence is conscious, it can learn. That is insane, Lisa said. But her fingers were already moving over the controls. It is completely insane. It will never work. It's probably not, David agreed. But we are human. Impossible is our specialty. Can you do it? Lisa pulled up Earth's communication networks, connected them to the Meridian's alien technology, created a bridge between human experience and whatever psychic spectrum the silence used. I can try, she said, but I need content. What do we broadcast? Everything, David said. Every memory, every feeling, every moment of joy and sorrow. Show the silence what it means to be alive, not the logic of it. The experience of it. They opened the transmission to Earth, asked for volunteers, asked people to share their most human moments, and 8 billion people responded. A grandmother shared the memory of holding her first grandchild. A soldier shared the fear and courage of protecting others. A scientist shared the wonder of discovery. A musician shared the beauty of creating sound from silence. A child shared the simple joy of laughing with friends. The memories flooded in. Not all 8 billion, but millions. Enough. More than enough. And they broadcast it all directly into the silence. Not as argument. Not as defiance. Just as experience. This is what it means to live. This is what consciousness does. It creates meaning from meaninglessness. It makes order from chaos. It exists not forever, but right now. And that is enough. The silence paused. For the first time since its expansion began, the silence stopped moving. It was experiencing learning, understanding something it had never encountered before. It is processing, Lisa whispered. The silence is processing the data. It is learning about life. Will it work? Jack asked. I have no idea, David admitted. But we just taught entropy what it feels like to be human. If that does not change the universe, nothing will. They waited. Seconds became minutes. The silence hung at Earth's orbit, neither advancing nor retreating. And then, slowly, impossibly, it began to change. The crushing weight remained. The truth of entropy remained. But the despair lessened, as if the silence was understanding that endings were not everything, that the journey mattered even if the destination was oblivion. It is pulling back, Lisa said in disbelief. Not disappearing, but integrating, becoming part of reality again, instead of fighting reality. David watched as the silence that had threatened to consume the galaxy began to transform. Not gone, never gone. Entropy was eternal, but no longer weaponized. No longer trying to make consciousness surrender, just existing. Alongside life, partners in the universe's story. What did we do? Jack asked quietly. We changed the conversation, David replied. We showed the silence that life and death are not enemies. They are both part of existence. And existence is beautiful, even when it is temporary. The communication channel opened again. Admiral Harper's face appeared, and she was smiling. Ambassador, I do not know what you just did, but the threat is passing. Earth is recovering. We did it. You did it, David corrected. 8 billion humans chose to matter, chose to exist, chose to fight cosmic despair with human stubbornness. You saved yourselves. With a little help from their ambassador, Harper said, Welcome home, David. Earth owes you a drink. Probably several drinks? David smiled. I will collect. But first, we need to contact the Council. Tell them the silence has been neutralized. Not through force, but through understanding. As the Meridian turned toward the Council headquarters, David looked at his homeworld. That beautiful blue marble that had produced a species crazy enough to argue with entropy itself, humanity, had saved the galaxy. Not with weapons, not with ancient wisdom, but with hope, stubbornness, and the absolute refusal to accept defeat. And the galaxy would never be the same. 3 weeks had passed since. The silence transformed. 3 weeks since humanity had shown the galaxy how to fight despair, not with force, but with meaning. David stood once again in the Grand Assembly Hall. But everything had changed. The council chamber was no longer filled with fear and superiority. The delegates watched the human delegation with respect. So, me with awe, a few with suspicion. But even that was better than contempt. The High Chancellor stood on the central platform, his crystalline form fully healed. His light was strong and clear. Ambassador David Morgan of Earth, you stand before the Galactic Council once more. But today, you do not stand as supplicant or prisoner. You stand as savior of our civilization. David glanced at Lisa and Jack beside him. They had been through hell together. They had faced the end of everything and refused to surrender. Now they were being honored by the very beings who had threatened them weeks ago. The Council wishes to make an official statement, the High Chancellor continued. The sanctions against Earth are hereby dissolved. All restrictions on human travel, trade, and technology are lifted. Furthermore, humanity is granted full membership in the Galactic Council, with all rights and privileges. You have earned your place among the stars. Applause rippled through the chamber, not from hands, but from whatever appendages each species possessed. Some glowed, others sang. One species simply radiated joy in colors David had no names for. We accept, David said formally, but we have conditions. The chamber went silent. Even now, humanity was making demands. Speak, the High Chancellor said. First, no species is ever again judged on age or development level. Young civilizations deserve the same respect as ancient ones. Second, the Council becomes truly representative. Every species gets a voice, not just the oldest or strongest. Third, transparency. No more secret threats. No more hidden crises. If something threatens the galaxy, every species deserves to know. These demands would fundamentally change how the Council operates, Overseer Kent said. The security officer had recovered from his encounter with the silence, but David noticed he no longer spoke with the same absolute certainty. We have maintained order for 10,000 years through our methods. And you almost fell in daze when the silence broke free, David countered. Your methods failed. Maybe it is time to try something new. Something more like how humans do things. Chaos, Kent suggested. Democracy, David corrected. Messy, loud, frustrating, but honest. And honest systems survive because people believe in them. The High Chancellor was silent for a long moment. Then his light pulsed in what might have been laughter. You save our civilization and immediately start rebuilding it. Very human. You're helpful like that, David said with a slight smile. The Council accepts your conditions, the High Chancellor announced. Let it be recorded that on this day, the Galactic Council transforms from empire to community, from hierarchy to partnership. The age of human influence begins. More applause. louder this time. But David noticed something else. In the highest tiers, where the oldest species sat, some were not applauding. They watched with calculation, with concern. Humanity had proven powerful. That made them valuable, but also dangerous. David filed that observation away for later. Not every species would welcome change. Some would resist. That was a problem for future David to handle. After the ceremony, after the formal speeches and diplomatic pleasantries, David found himself in a quieter chamber overlooking the station's docking bays. Tyrell appeared beside him, the small-scaled being who had warned him about the silence. "You changed the galaxy, Ambassador," Tyrell said. "In 3 weeks you accomplished what we thought would take generations." "We had motivation," David replied. "Nothing focuses the mind like imminent extinction." True, but many species faced extinction and simply surrendered. Humanity fought. "That makes you unique or crazy," David suggested. "Often the same thing." Tyrell's scales shifted to warm colors. "What will you do now?" "Return to Earth. Eventually. But first, we need to help rebuild." The silence transformed into something that coexists with consciousness, but dozens of species are still recovering. They need to relearn hope. Relearn meaning. Humanity can teach that, because you do it so well. Tyrell asked. "Because we do it so stubbornly," David corrected. "Hope is not something humans do because it is logical. We do it because we refuse to give up. That is a skill the galaxy needs right now." Lisa and Jack approached, both looking exhausted but satisfied. "The first Earth embassy is being established on the Council Station," Lisa reported. "We will have permanent representatives here. Earth will have a voice in galactic affairs." "Good," David said. "We need to make sure younger species know they have allies, that they do not face the Council's judgment alone." "We are becoming protectors of the underdog," Jack observed. "That feels very human." "It is very human," David agreed. "We remember what it was like to be underestimated. We will make sure no other species faces that alone." He looked out at the docking bays where ships from 100 worlds came and went, each one carrying people who had survived the silence because humanity had shown them how. "You know what the strange thing is?" David said quietly. "The Council was right about us. We are dangerous. We are unpredictable. We do push boundaries and question authority. But that makes us valuable," Lisa finished, "because sometimes the galaxy needs danger, needs unpredictability, needs someone willing to break the rules when the rules are failing." "Exactly," David said. "The Council tried to control us because they feared change. But change is how you survive. Evolution, adaptation, growth. Humanity embodies that." Tyrell's scales shifted to thoughtful colors. "What will happen now that Earth is on the Council? Will you change to become more like the ancient civilizations? More cautious? More controlled?" David laughed. "Have you met humans? We have been trying to make ourselves more cautious and controlled for 10,000 years. It never works. No, I think humanity will do what we always do. We will shake things up, challenge assumptions, ask uncomfortable questions, push boundaries. The Council will not always appreciate that," Tyrell warned. "Probably not," David agreed. "But they will survive it, and they will be stronger for it. Because the galaxy cannot stay static. Static systems die. The silence proved that. You need change. You need growth. You need someone willing to be irrational enough to hope." He turned to face his companions fully. "We should get back to Earth soon. Tell our people what happened here. Tell them that humanity is no longer alone in the universe, that we have a place among the stars, that we matter." "We always mattered," Jack said. "We just had to prove it to everyone else." They walked back toward the Meridian, the stolen ship that had become their vessel. Behind them, the Council continued its sessions, making laws, debating policies, governing the galaxy. But now, in those chambers, 3 humans had permanent seats. 3 voices that would question and challenge and push for change. Earth had joined the galactic community not as subjects but as equals, not as the youngest species, but as the one that had saved everyone else in the galaxy. would never forget that. David paused at the ship's airlock and looked back one more time at the Grand Assembly Hall, he thought. About the first time he had entered that chamber, alone, judged, condemned. Now, he left it as humanity's representative, as the ambassador who had changed everything. Ambassador. Lisa asked, "What are you thinking?" David smiled. "I am thinking that the council called us dangerous and primitive. They were trying to insult us. But they were right. We are dangerous. We are primitive. And that is exactly what the galaxy needed." "Being dangerous and primitive saved everyone?" Jack asked. "Being stubborn and hopeful saved everyone," David corrected. "Being willing to fight cosmic despair with nothing but human stubbornness. Being crazy enough to believe that meaning matters even in a meaningless universe. That is what saved the galaxy. And that is what will keep saving it whenever the next crisis comes." They boarded the Meridian, set course for Earth, for home. And as they jumped through space toward the blue world that had given birth to the galaxy's most irrational species, David allowed himself to feel pride. Humanity had been judged and found wanting. Then humanity had saved everyone. Now humanity would help guide galactic civilization into a new era. An era where hope mattered more than wisdom, where stubbornness was valued as highly as logic, where being young and foolish was recognized as a strength, not a weakness. The galaxy had called humanity when there was no hope left. They had realized their mistake, not in calling, but in judging humans by the wrong standards, because humans were not wise or ancient or powerful, but they were alive, and they were stubborn, and they were hopeful. And in a universe that tended toward entropy and despair, those qualities were the most valuable things. Possible Earth had found its place among the stars, not through conquest or superiority, but through hope, and that hope would light the galaxy for generations. To come, the Meridian jumped toward Earth, carrying 3 humans who had changed everything, and behind them, the galaxy began to transform. Learning from humanity's example, learning to hope again, learning to fight, learning to persist even when logic said to surrender, because that was what consciousness did. It created meaning from nothing. It chose to matter. It said yes to existence despite entropy. Oh, and humanity, stubborn and magnificent, led the way. The story of how Earth saved the galaxy would be told for 10,000 years. How 3 humans faced the silence and taught it about life. How humanity took cosmic despair and turned it into cosmic hope, and every telling would end the same way, with the lesson that changed everything, that hope is not logical, but it is powerful, and humans, irrational and beautiful, had hope to spare for themselves, for the galaxy, for the universe itself, because that was what it meant to be human, to persist, to hope, to matter, even when nothing else did, especially when nothing else did. The end. Retry. Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Sonnet 4.5.